This week we're switching things up a little bit for our YouTube video. We're going to be doing an install on a 7.3 Powerstroke. These are a very popular truck. A lot of these trucks still on the road, but they still have the typical issues that come with age. So we're going to be installing a KC Stage 2 turbo. Now this turbocharger has completely failed. Now the symptom was that he pulls up to the shop and he's pretty much mosquito fogging the next 3 blocks over, but we're gonna get this charger pulled off. The truck is going to be getting the KC Stage 2 300X turbo. This is a late 99 truck along with an exhaust back pressure valve delete pedestal, and I will show you the difference when it comes off of the truck, the difference between this pedestal and the factory pedestal. We're also going to get his charge pipes all cleaned up, his crossover, and get the engine bay cleaned up. Now, part of the reason I believe this turbocharger specifically failed is because he was running this crappy aftermarket Spectre intake. Now this is going to be going straight to the trash. No, David, we are not putting this on your truck. This is going straight in the trash because we got a S&B air intake, and this comes along with the entire box. Now this applies to your 1999 to 2003 7.3 Powerstroke. Now specifically, this is for the late 99. So when you're on KC Turbo's website, it will say 99.5 to 2003, and that is because the early 99 trucks had a different compressor housing along with a different pedestal and different intake runners. So this turbocharger will not work on an early 99, but the installation steps are the same. So I will repeat that. This will not work on an early 99. This is a late 99 truck, but this applies all the way up to 2003. We're going to go ahead and get the factory turbocharger removed and get the clamps and the intercooler pipes removed. The factory air box, we're going to pull this battery out, both of our charge pipes. We'll get the turbocharger removed. Now part of this air box has already been removed, but you've got 8mm hose clamps that hold on this air intake box. So go ahead and start by removing those 8mm clamps. These have already been removed, so we're just going to go ahead and pull this off and set this in our parts washer, and we're going to go ahead and start removing our charge pipes. Now in most cases on your factory charge pipes, these bolts are 11mm. Now you will see on the inside of these they have oil residue on them. Now in a case like this, that's caused from 2 reasons, like a turbocharger failure, but even under normal operating circumstances you will at times have oil inside of a charge pipe because of the CCV that is here. So all your crankcase vents, they breathe right back into your intake and then through your turbo and into your charge pipes. So don't be alarmed if you have a little bit of oil residue inside of your charge pipes. That is perfectly normal. We're going to go ahead and start tearing this down. Now normally I will also unbolt this, the map sensor. I don't remove it completely. It just gives me room to be able to get this charge pipe out easier, along with the transmission dipstick tube or dipstick. Go ahead and pull that and set that aside, and that makes it easy to go ahead and remove this charge pipe. And if these charge pipes have been on there for quite some time, you can lead to some sort of difficulty with getting these off. So just get yourself a hose pick and get behind there. Now just be careful when you're using a hose pick not to punch through your charge pipe, or else when you get this all back together, you're gonna have a boost leak. So you might be like, oh, I got my new turbo put on, but I'm really low on power. And you might wonder why. Well, if you punch any holes in your charge pipes, then you're gonna be low on power. So. Now most 7.3s, their battery terminals are a 13mm socket. However, your later model 7.3s, like your 2003 7.3, they will actually have a 8mm, similar style to a 6-liter Powerstroke. All of your battery tray bolts are held in by a 10mm. Now some of these are held in with 13mm bolts, but this entire battery tray does get replaced when you install the S&B intake. Pull this little assembly out. Now on the back side of your battery box, you've got your intake air temperature sensor. That you can just twist out and set aside, because that will indeed need to be reused. with the new airbox. Now these 3 clips here on these factory airboxes are known to crack. Now this case, normally I would just tell someone to put a new air filter and make sure they have no damage to the airbox. Well, this one was all chopped up to be able to fit that crappy aftermarket intake. So now we've got nice easy access to this other charge pipe. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this off and we'll set this one in the cooker. Next up, we're going to remove your 8mm clamp here at the top. Then you'll use a flathead or a pick to get behind that V-band clamp to pop that loose. You also have to 10mm for your intake air heater. So you go ahead and take that 10mm off. Now personally, I prefer to remove this entire assembly here on the right side for your air intake, just to have it out the way, especially for when you're trying to reach around the back side to get your downpipe clamp. Now, as you're taking this apart, you go ahead and take some penetrating oil and hit your V-band clamps. And all this you degrease after you install your new turbo. A common problem people fight with these back V-band clamps. I'll show you a little trick to get these things off. You can soak down your EBP actuator lever. Next, I take that 10mm bolt off for your harness. There are little clips that hold it together, so you just twist it off. Now, a common issue on the back side of this harness, where are very common to know the wrap valve cover. So when I go back together with this, we'll go ahead and wrap this, keep that from failing. Next, you just push on down on this tab. It will slide out towards you, towards the driver's side wheel well, and you can push it back through, get it out the way. There's 2 13mm bolts that hold this assembly to your valve cover. Now, this centerpiece is commonly referred to as the spider. I usually like to back that off all the way. Then take off your wastegate solenoid and your vacuum lines. Just keep note of where the vacuum lines go. Unplug your intake air heater or intake air temperature sensor. You've got 4 clamps on the bottom of your spider. And then I like to go ahead and get a pick, and you can just tap this clamp, pops right off. Now your intake air heater, you've got your power wire, you've got this ceramic spacer, and then you've got your ground that goes straight to your cylinder head, and that's it. You can just pull this up and out. You got these are the 2 clamps I'm referring to. Now this all is very commonly known to just get really caked up like this. So we're gonna go ahead and take off the map sensor. We still need to drain the engine oil, and remove the rest of the gaskets from the original pedestal. But we have all the old components removed, and we will now do a side-by-side comparison. This is a 64mm turbocharger, and it does have a larger 4-inch inlet compared to the factory 3-inch inlet, and that's why KC Turbos sends you with everything you need to install this turbo. And it comes with a new clamp as well at your turbocharger. Now you will reuse your factory clamp that attaches to your CCV inlet. Big difference you'll see is a different wastegate actuator. Also, your factory turbo has a exhaust back pressure valve, and you will notice that the pedestal is slightly different as well. Now, these pedestals are a very common leak point where this exhaust back pressure valve actuator sits in the pedestal. As you can see, this one was leaking out of those seals. Now, they do sell a seal kit. If you want to keep your truck factory, they do sell a seal kit to reseal these. However, in most cases, individuals opt to go ahead and remove that completely. The KC turbos, when they are shipped, they actually come with them already removed with the new housing on the back side of this turbo. So as you can tell here, there is no exhaust back pressure valve on the back side of the turbocharger, in comparison to your factory turbo that not only has the valve in the back of the turbo, but it also has this arm that sticks out the bottom of the turbocharger, and that is what connects. Now, when you're removing this inside the truck, all you have to do is slide this over. This sits just like this, and this is what attaches it and keeps it from falling off of this arm. So all I do is I take a pry bar, and all you have to do is simply tap this over until it stops, and then you just push it down, and now you can remove your turbo easily. Now, usually these V-bands on the back of the turbocharger can be quite a pain, and they can be very difficult to line back up. So when you're going back together, and I'll demonstrate, you'll want to leave your 2 mounting bolts hand tight, thread them down a few, and then get your V-bands lined up, and then finish mounting turbocharger. Now, these should come clocked properly from KC turbos, so you should not have to loosen these bolts on the back of your compressor housing. Now, you will have to install a new O-ring on your turbocharger discharge outlet, and they come with that and new pedestal seals. So what's the benefit of removing your exhaust back pressure valve? Well, it's one less point of failure. I've seen these actually stick closed before, and then you have like a hissing sound under the engine. Now, most 7.3s, when you first start them up in the morning, you'll hear like a hissing sound almost under the hood. That's just the wastegate cycling to help warm the engine up faster. It's a cold climate thing, but you really don't need it. And it's a little bit of a restrictor, as you can tell. Even with the valve open, you still have some restriction on the outlet side. Are there any downsides to going to a larger turbo? Well, you will have a little bit of turbo lag. However, with the Hydra chip or a TS chip and good quality tunes, you can remove any of that turbo lag out of it. Now, the drivability of this turbocharger is very similar to stock. Big pro to doing this is you get a 360 thrust bearing. So these are known to have bearing issues in the center housing. So you get a 360 thrust bearing, you get a better wastegate actuator, larger turbocharger, and a billet wheel, anti-surge ports, so it's better for towing, and overall better performance and power, and more reliability, because you're also removing your exhaust back pressure valve. Pedestal eliminates these leak points that are very common for the 7.3 Powerstroke. So we're going to go ahead and get this new pedestal installed with the new O-rings and seals, get it lined back up with the up pipe, and then get the new turbocharger installed. So we're going to go ahead and drain the engine oil while we are waiting for some of our parts to get cleaned up in the parts washer. Now, I always have the practice to change the oil when we install a new turbocharger, just in case there's any debris that made its way into the engine oil. At least you're starting fresh. And always use a motor craft filter. Go ahead and install your new pedestal gaskets. You got one large and one small on the bottom, and one large, one small on the top. Remove both your old gaskets like so. You've got your 2 pedestal gaskets here and here. For the lower ones, you've got 4 bolts, 2 in the back, 2 in the front, here, and on that left side past this fuel line. Now, all this nastiness we're going to clean up after it's back together, get it up to temp, and get it all pressure washed off. Now you can take your pedestal. These bolts you will torque to 18 foot-pounds. Grab your other 2 gaskets, go up on the top here, there, here. I usually like to grab a bungee cord and pull my downpipe up out the way. Bungee cord around it, tie it off somewhere over here on the air box. Now you're ready to install your new turbo. Something always good to check is make sure on any turbocharger you're installing that your feed and drain tube, sometimes they will ship them with caps here for your turbo feed and drain or your air inlets. Those are very obvious, but always make sure you inspect to make sure there are no restrictions and no debris for your feed or drain or exhaust for two reasons. If you have a cap or plug here somewhere, this exhaust housing gets very hot. It could be a fire hazard, but also you don't want, if you had a restriction in your feed or your drain, you'll blow this turbocharger and you'll be, they will deny a warranty if it was installed improperly. So we're gonna go ahead and drop this turbocharger on. Now on the back of this up pipe, you do have a little locator dowel you see there on the top, and it goes into your exhaust housing here. So that's what you're shooting to line up. You don't want to have a gap, and you do not want to use V-band clamp to draw the turbo and up pipe together. You will have a leak and you will damage your clamp, then you'll be fighting an exhaust leak and having some difficulty there as well. I like to normally get that set on just like that. Then you take your two new bolts. Don't run them all the way down because you got to line your up pipe up first. So you take and hand thread in these two bolts. I usually like to get them run down the majority of the way. The turbo's still a little bit loose. And you need it like that because getting this up pipe lined back up can be a pain. See if we can get it up. Right on that rail. Mosquitoes, I guess. Oh, there it goes. It dropped right in. So now you get your T-bolt, drop back in, drop it in through your little eyelet, if you want to call it that. Thread your nut on. Now the up pipe is much more critical to get sealed up perfectly than the down pipe, but both important. If you have a loose up pipe, you're going to be low on power. You're going to have fumes getting in the cab, so nothing good comes from a leaky up pipe V-band. Now go ahead and tighten your two turbo hold down bolts. Torque those to 32 foot-pounds. Alright, you have officially got your turbocharger installed in the truck. You've got the up pipe there, you got your pedestal, your new O-rings for your pedestal. You've got your V-band, so at this point it's pretty much just getting all your charge pipes and your down pipe reinstalled. At this point now your down pipe is no longer going to be in the way, so you can just go ahead and let this fall back over. And that lines up just like that. We'll go ahead and get our down pipe V-band back on. We'll go ahead and get our turbocharger spider on and our new compressor outlet. And we'll give these parts back to the customer as a souvenir from coming to Smith's Diesel Performance. And we're gonna go ahead and switch this over to rapid mode and the body cam and get this thing zipped back together. So now just pretty much the reverse of what you did at the beginning. So this is what I like to do. Usually down to here is just bare wire, you know, all the way back. So I like to use friction tape. And while I wrap this up, you can see on the valve cover actually where the wires were already rubbing through the valve cover, and over time, just with age, these will actually rub through to bare wire. These wires all looked fine. They rubbed through the paint a little bit there, but I wrap them up with this friction tape to keep it from rubbing through. Went ahead and got the spider installed, the cold side pipe. Went ahead and got the new 4-inch inlet from KC Turbos installed on the turbocharger. Got your wiring harness reconnected, the bracket for the air intake and CCV are all reinstalled. Next we're going to get the hot side pipe installed. Well, we got our turbocharged pipes back on. Plug in your wastegate solenoid, and this KC Turbos boot does not slide all the way up against the front of that housing, if you can see that there. So don't try and force it past that. That's as far as it goes. Next, we're going to go ahead and get our S&B air intake assembled and installed, and we're going to finish up the engine oil change and go pick up a AC compressor. Well, there you have it. It's all back together, and we got the S&B air intake assembled. We got the truck on the battery charger. We just fired it up, but we're going to go ahead and swap out this AC compressor for the customer as well. That's not really a part of this video, but the most difficult parts of the job is going to be getting that up pipe lined up there in the back. Just take your time. You really don't want to get it to this point where it's all back together and then you have to pull it back apart. Take your time, make sure that little alignment pin drops into the back of the turbo. Don't over tighten your V-bands and your T-bolts for your charge pipes. These are only about 5 foot-pounds, 5 to 8 foot-pounds. Try and deduce what caused your turbocharger failure. Don't just immediately jump to, oh, it was just a junk turbo or the turbo just went bad, because these things will last a very long time. If you're not keeping up on your oil changes, these turbochargers are lubricated by engine oil. So if you're not keeping up on your oil changes, then these components that are wearable components are going to fail sooner than later. You might hear somebody, I got 500,000 miles out of my original OEM turbo. All right, they're probably making sure they had good quality air coming into it and good quality oil lubricating it and keeping those EGTs down. So if you have, if you notice you ever have a boost leak, you got a hole in one of these charge pipe boots, and make sure to address it, take care of it, and get a new boot and clamp. Same thing if you have a crack in your air box or the factory three-piece or factory three-prong box cracks. Don't just keep running it. Don't put duct tape over it. Get yourself a new air box. These S&B kits are great. They come with a new box, good quality boots and clamps and filter. They flow more than stock, and they still maintain a high efficiency rating. So, if they don't have a factory filters system, factory box that's in good condition, we always put an S&B. We don't charge any labor to install these S&B kits. We do them just at the cost of the kit itself. $349 installed at the same time as doing a turbocharger. Same thing with the EBPV pedestal. No additional charge. We just charge to install the turbocharger. Overall cost, we do charge 3 hours labor for the whole job start to finish. That includes, the engine oil change and removing and installing the turbocharger, cleaning all the components, charge pipes, spider, inspecting your air box, installing the new S&B. So everything, it's about 3 hours labor. So that comes to about $500 for labor. And then you've got your turbocharger. This turbocharger, the 300X Stage 2 KC Turbo, is around $1,700. EBP pedestal, $125. S&B filter kit, $349. All in all, I think he's around $2,500 in this whole job. And he's got a better turbocharger, better quality filtration now. Fresh engine oil change, so he's good for the next 5,000 miles, and he should be good for a very long time on this new turbocharger. So hopefully this helps somebody out there. Little tips and tricks. Try and do your best to figure out what caused your turbo failure. I'm pretty confident that in this case he was running a really bad, poor quality aftermarket air filter, and I've seen countless times how many of those have taken out the turbos, or the turbo just simply fails from lack of lubrication, lack of engine oil. If anyone ever has any questions, drop a question down in the comments. Hopefully this helps somebody out there one day. Thanks again for watching. If you like this kind of content, make sure to like, subscribe. We've got plenty of other trucks here in the shop that we can make videos on. We work on a lot of 7.3, 6.0, 6.4, 6.7 Powerstrokes and a lot of Cummins trucks. We're gonna make a video series on our 3rd gen that we just picked up. and of course our race truck, our 6.4 race truck, and it's pretty much already built, so we won't have too much content of the build side of things, but a lot of content for the racing side of things with that truck. We've got a lot more coming in store in the future, and thanks again for watching, and have a great day.